Hello, welcome to today's episode of Presentation Hell. We're broadcasting from Embark Studios in Tampa, Florida. Today I'm sitting here with Dr. Shanae. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, Dr. Shanae is the executive director of the Collective Wellness Institute. So tell us a little bit, what is the Collective Wellness Institute?
Yes, so the Collective Wellness Institute is a group practice of mental health providers here in the Tampa Bay area. We provide therapy.
How do you provide therapy? Is it online? Is it in person? How does the system work?
We do it all. We do individual, group, and family counseling. We do it in person and we do it through telehealth.
Do you send people to their homes?
No.
Okay, all right. I crossed the line. I didn't know that. I'm asking. I'm learning.
No. We do it in office and through telehealth.
And through telehealth.
Yes, which is a virtual platform where people log into their client portal and then they see their therapist on screen like that.
Oh, that's the same type of thing we're doing
Yes.
right now.
Yes.
And how long have you been doing this? What led you into this situation, your job where you are?
Ooh. So
Tell me your story.
Yes. So I've been doing therapy for years. I've been in the counseling industry for over 20 years. I've been in the private practice industry for about 6 years.
All in the Tampa area?
In Tampa area for 6 years. My first 3 years was as a solo provider. Mm-hmm. And over the last couple of years, we focused on adding additional clinicians because, as you know, the need has grown.
Oh, yeah, everything's
happening in our society. The story is much deeper than that. But I don't know if you really want me to go that far.
Yeah, go ahead. Give us a little depth. That's all right. If it's interesting. If you don't think it's interesting.
Oh, it's interesting.
See, then lay it on us. That's why we came here. That's why other people are watching for interest, because who wants a boring podcast?
No. There's nothing boring about my life, let me tell you, sure. So we talked a little bit before we started that I was born and raised in New York City. Mm-hmm. I was raised in New York City in the 80s.
In the 80s?
In the heart of the crack epidemic.
I was there during that period of time.
So you understand how our communities transformed.
Oh, yes. I call it the self-cleaning oven, by the way.
It was a horrible experience. And unfortunately, I got a first-hand glance at how our communities changed from pretty good to very scary. Mm-hmm. And that came very close to home. That impacted family members and people that I love. And as a child, trying to understand what's happening, responsible adults becoming emaciated strangers. Yeah. I decided I wanted to understand more about that. That's a good point.
As a child, looking at strong adults as emaciated strangers.
They were responsible adults before this.
Well, there's a lot of irresponsible adults nowadays, and it's a really sad situation. I agree with that. But the concept that they're emaciated strangers, they're supposed to be a strength and network to provide for children and people coming through so that you have good citizens coming through society.
Absolutely.
Go on.
So we're talking about people who I would be able to go to their homes. Maybe someone did my hair. Maybe someone was my child care provider. Maybe it was a friend's mom or dad. And those individuals became strangers, people you were not supposed to spend time with.
And why?
Because they were addicted to crack.
Oh, all right. There you go.
And that made them unsafe.
All right. I get
that made all of your possessions unsafe, right?
Well, it made all relationships, because people who are addicted truly lie to those who love, because that's who they can manipulate the best. Other people see through it and don't tolerate it.
Absolutely. And like I said before, that came very close to home. That impacted loved ones. And that was very scary for me. I had always been an intelligent young lady. My education really got me pretty far, and so I decided, I'm going to try to figure out what was that all about. In spite of all of the things that we saw.
So what was it all about? What was it all about? This is the real deal. What was it? Well, crack was a big deal. It affected a lot of people. It actually affected my family very personally as well. I've seen it. I know the depth of destruction that can yield from it.
Yes.
But as a child seeing that and going through, so what were some of these things?
So as a child, I didn't quite understand. I knew that I was going to find out, right? In hindsight, I now know that life circumstances impacted people that didn't have the adequate coping skills for the circumstances that crossed their paths. Clinically, we say those.
But why didn't they have coping skills? What was missing in in their lives that left that out in the child development?
That is different for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
That is different for a lot of people. But what you said is critical. The child development. The
Mm-hmm.
child development was arrested, and oftentimes people reached for things that gave them comfort,
Mm-hmm.
gave them
Escapism.
Escape.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Understood.
Exactly. And again,
well, no one's being rewarded for good things. You're being rewarded for thug action.
Right.
And and you're either on the hard end of the thug action or the weak end of it.
Mm-hmm.
Either way, usually doesn't end up well.
Absolutely. And so it took over many people's lives, ruined lots of people's lives,
yes,
directly and vicariously. And as a child, that just didn't make a whole lot of sense. I moved around quite a bit and eventually got to a place where it was safe for me to just focus in on school and not have to worry about caring for my siblings, because I did have to do that. And
may I ask a question?
Yeah.
Were your parents on crack?
Absolutely.
Okay. I'm clarifying the situation. No. So the true leadership, the true person you looked up to was so far distant in their, it's like the person with the faraway eyes, and they'll rob from you in a minute. And you had how many siblings?
3 in the home.
And you were the oldest, I'm guessing.
I am.
So you were mom in the home, and you had this whole thing, and the home was almost transient, because what you thought became strength in haircutter or neighbor who fed you or whatever became that same destroyed individual through this cheap form of cocaine.
Yes, I had 2.
This was in the Bronx.
In the Bronx.
Melrose area.
Near the Bronx Zoo.
Bronx Zoo, so it was up a little higher. It was above
East
of
Tremont.
95.
Yes.
Yeah, East Tremont.
East
Okay.
Tremont.
Okay.
I had 2 safe places.
Mm-hmm.
One was a neighbor. I call her Aunt Dot to this day.
Do you spell? I have an Aunt Dot. Well, she passed away a long time ago.
Yes, Aunt Dot.
Really?
Is
she still in New York City?
Still in New York. Bless her heart. And the other was my grandmother. I rest her soul. And she had her own demons.
Well, we all have our own demons, regardless of how we're present. We all do the best we can, and the question is, can you look at them and actually function in the world and not be use them to allow you to be something you shouldn't be?
Yes. So at some point, the challenges of being a child of addicted parents began to show up in my life as a dropout risk, believe it or not. And my grandmother, even though she had her own challenges with addiction as well, not many people talk about that, but she did. She had the sense enough to call my dad. My mom and dad did not live together. My dad, who had his own addiction, was married to my amazing stepmother. And they propositioned me to my dad, basically came and got me. He had asked me before, did I want to move with them, but I didn't want to leave my 3 siblings behind. By this point, when he's got the summons from my grandmother, you just didn't ignore my grandmother when she asked you to do something, he pretty much told me, okay, it's time to go. We waited for you to figure this out, but you didn't do it on your own. It's time to go.
So you left your siblings?
I left my siblings temporarily.
Were they of the same mother and father?
They were of the same mother. One we question about his dad.
Okay. No, I get it.
It's the family joke.
So, the family joke. It's not really a joke. Well, actually,
no,
all good
family joke.
all good jokes are based in reality. Otherwise, it can't be a joke.
He's the one that looks the most like me, and I always tease and say, I don't know, my dad might have came back around.
Well, that is, that's not this podcast here,
No,
by the
it's
way.
not.
But it is an interesting podcast, by the way. No, some of the questions. So I'll ask you that when you how should I say, when you're as a child, you look to your parents as superheroes. You look to them as guidance. You look to them as modeling behavior for what you think love is. And when you're in a situation where they're guided by the love of crack cocaine and a glass pipe going around in a circle, and I'm next, that's the rest of my life. If they're that, how did that make you feel?
So it's interesting that you describe that initial innocence in that way. I can identify with it. I don't know that I ever really had that view
What do you
of
mean?
my parents. They're the model, and I love them, and they're showing me the way.
So that was already wiped away before you were cognizant, before you were aware mentally, whatever it is, 6, 8, whatever. There's at some point, there's at some point that, and usually it's not, I don't know, I'm not a psychologist, I ain't a professionalist, but at some point you fall in love with your parents, and anything they do or say is God. This is the person who tells me I can eat food, and I had cake when they gave it to me. That's magic. And chocolate. Did I tell you this person gave me chocolate? I'm just saying, like, and there's a point there, and I was asking you about that because when I've had family members extremely addicted to drugs, and I know the distance they can cause even amongst the people who aren't addicted to drugs can destroy them as well, because it's utterly manipulative. And I can't say it was like I just didn't think of it as if that was your parent that you had to trust by and then stand up, and that's what led you here.
Absolutely. So again, that initial is not how I would describe. Those feelings generally came from other folks in the family. My mom had me at 20. My dad was 19. So she was a teenage mom, coming from her own challenging background. So I don't know that she had ever really had the capacity.
This is in the 70s in the Bronx.
That's in the 70s in the Bronx. I don't know that she had the capacity to really create that initial environment that you described. So I don't. Well,
physically where you were, just as a point, about 3 years earlier is when they made a movie called Fort Apache, the Bronx, with which is based on this, and well, crack wasn't as prevalent then, but it's based on I know the area. I know what. When I spent time in there, I saw it as what I called a self-cleaning oven.
Yeah,
meaning it was at one point thriving, lots of families and things, and then it started breaking down and falling apart, and it got worse, and then the streets became difficult, it became threatening, there became drugs and prostitution, all that type of shit. And that's a prey type society, meaning you need prey for them to survive, and everyone else leaves. And then when everyone leaves, there's not any prey anymore. And then they dissipate, and then it's empty. And then the area is so empty for so long that someone else comes in and says, hey, I'll build that house if you let me. There's no one here, because it's not, and then it self-cleans itself. In some ways, I view the area in Tampa we are in downtown in the same way, in that it was thriving port 70 years ago, and over time it became deindustrialized, and everyone moved out, and they got in their cars and they went away. And 15 years ago, it was totally empty and barren, and Jeff Vinnick came and bought some land and started building it up and bringing it together, and we're 10 years down the road, and there's a true rebirth that's happening. And it's kind of... this is my plug for Tampa, by the way. It's well worth it. I thought I'd throw it in there. And Dr. Shanae and I are a part of Leadership Tampa Bay, class 2003. And we're here today partially because of that. That's where we met. That's right. That's all us.
We absolutely love Leadership Tampa Bay.
That's right.
Great endeavor.
But I see the similarities between the two of what you just described and stuff. This episode of Presentation Hell has been brought to you by Shuffler. Shuffler is presentation management. Earlier in the podcast, we spoke about a little bit of the foundational understanding you have towards what you do in your work today.
Yes.
So, and that is the understanding of, broken family, drug addicted lifestyle, understanding that you can't trust adults, and quite frankly, you took this incredible experience and built a foundation where you're the executive director of a major institution here. Tell us a little bit about that journey.
Absolutely. So, in spite of the addiction, my mom, my family has always been community oriented. And so I was always taught to share. We always had community. Addicts create really good community. I mean,
It's
an under-discussed thing.
Well, there's a community among thieves. They'll be with you until they have to be a thief against you, but they'll never rat you out until they save their ass.
And so I didn't get exposed to the disloyalty. I only got exposed to let's take care of each other.
Well, snitches get stitches, and that reigns true in the drug business.
It does, but these are also wounded people, and so I got to see a sense of humanity among them, and there were some values that were imparted. With that, I learned over time to give back, right? And so I started in college by working at a phone crisis center, and then I started working with the developmentally disabled population, and that grew. As I learned more about human behavior, I realized people can change.
Yes.
There is a amazing recovery advocate named Tonya Kane, and one of the famous quotes in one of her documentaries is, "As long as there is breath, there is hope."
I'll buy that.
And I decided to be a part of this system that helps people get to hope.
And you picked it from within. That's the whole thing. That's the moment of any addict, anyone going to rehab for the 55th time or 28th time. What makes the difference? It's a change within.
Inside.
And usually they only get that change when everyone else has given up on them. When they truly look around and go, damn, there's not another lifeline.
Right.
So what I'd like you to do is give us, you don't have to give a name, please don't give a name, but give a story of one human being who touched you in the process, that something was crazy miserable and went through and hope was lost, and there was... Tell us a human story that you've seen that would connect with viewers.
A human story about someone else?
Yeah, about someone who touched you, something you've seen. It could be about yourself. It
Absolutely.
could be a little, a 7-year-old boy came in and said, "I won the contest and no one came," and he realized he shouldn't be in science and burned his science set. I don't know. I made that up. You hear what I'm looking for.
I'll share a little bit more about me. In high school, senior year, I returned back to New York. My father was ailing and dying in Massachusetts. I couldn't bear to watch that.
So you moved to Massachusetts in a way to get you out of the Bronx, and now you're coming back to New York City in the senior year in high school.
Back to New York City. He passes.
Okay.
I am challenged and I'm smart. So I decide.
You don't look challenged now. You look smart now, but we'll say you shedded one of them. Go ahead.
I was challenged then. I decided, I had the brilliant idea that I was going to get my GED and I was just going to go straight to college because I was kind of crashing on someone's couch. Not kind of.
And what year is this? This is
senior year.
91.
Oh, you want to date me? Okay, this was 93.
I moved to New York City in January of 93 and lived on my friend's couch for 18 months.
93.
Okay.
I went to the guidance counselor and said, I'm going to withdraw and I'm going to go get my GED. And that guidance counselor said, absolutely not. You will not. She didn't know me. I didn't know her. She knew what she saw about me on paper. And somehow that gave her enough hope to say to me, you're too smart to do that. If you do that, you will change the trajectory of your life. And something about this lady's attentiveness to who I was caught my attention, and it lit a fire in me to believe her and to stay enrolled.
Because she believed in you.
Because she believed in me.
So you're in high school, you're speaking to your guidance counselor. Do you still know this person? Do you speak to them today? If they haven't passed away, I don't mean that.
So no, I do not. When I was finishing my doctoral program, I was reminded that there were people along the way who were critical in me having even the hope to do. I never envisioned I would do anything like that. And I attempted to find her, and I attempted to invite her to my graduation, but I was unsuccessful.
Oh.
So I don't know if she is alive. It could be a little difficult for a principal to go seek out an old guidance counselor.
Well, that's what Facebook is for nowadays. Social media is for finding people that you haven't seen in 40 years, by the way.
So, but this was also, what is this, 23? So this was 12 years ago.
Okay, it was when that was the beginning of social media.
Yeah, we weren't that savvy.
No, but that's all right.
So I don't.
So there was a long stretch before you got your educational process, and you worked, and you said you were in a call center for and pursued this. And for me, I see that as a much more arduous journey, a journey that is much more built in spirit and your own conviction, because you can, some kids come up and go through school and end up with a degree and are out doing their stuff. Some need to go out and be beaten up and be punched in the face and bleed through and go cry in the corner and come back and realize that, holy crap, you can't cry in the corner, you got to just keep going and do that. And it sounds like your journey is something so much more than meets the eye.
It's spiritual.
It's spiritual.
My journey is spiritual.
When did you know it was spiritual? Like, at what moment did you recognize that this is...
whole picture? Not until maybe 2002.
Mm-hmm.
At that point.
And what changed at that point?
Yes, at that point, I was now the legal mother of two of the siblings I left behind because they were placed in foster care.
Mm-hmm.
Then we became foster parents, and then we became their adoptive parents. I was also the mother of my own two biological children, and I was also enrolled in my master's program full-time, which was...
And where are you living?
In Virginia.
And what's the school?
Regent University.
Okay.
Regent University. And it was a unusual admission. I had not, because I am now the mother of 4 children working full-time.
Mm-hmm.
I had not completed all of the requirements for my bachelor's degree.
Mm-hmm.
And I was admitted into the master's program with the experience that I had shared. And so they allowed that experience to fill in the couple courses that were missing. And so I got into the master's without a bachelor's. And it was at that point that I was also developing my spiritual walk. And the things that didn't make sense naturally started to become crystal clear for me.
You said something very unique right there, and I could go deep into it. You said the word spiritual walk.
Yes.
Did that begin at that time when you recognized it? Or when you recognized it, it was just a clear focus that walk started a long time earlier? Or, was it, a moment of recognition and saying, something isn't right here. I can't accept reality. I can accept reality. I can't pretend it's not what it is. I'm looking for...
Yes. So, no, my process started not high school, in college. In high school, in the years before, I didn't believe in God.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, like, how horrible. There couldn't be a God, that my life was what it was. I mean, I was exposed
Yeah, how could there be a God by what
I'm exposed to. But in college, I had the opportunity to build community again with individuals who did believe in God. They introduced me to God, and a gradual process of making sense of that for myself. So my journey started in college, but in my master's degree is when I began to be very committed to studying things for myself and actually building a relationship, not just religious practices, but building a personal
an understanding between yourself. I mean, people, I think many people, God in today's world, people get, they don't know what it is, when really it's about what is the highest level of what you see in your person. If I can take an analogy, crack cocaine is God to many people in the 80s and 90s. I saw that. That was their highest thing they were looking for. Some people find it within. Some people look at cash and money. Some people look at clicks and likes and as what is the most enlightened component in your life, when all of it's all right here, by the way. And until you find out who you are as an individual, there's no way you can help the others around you, and you can participate and create a community that actually works and comes together and works because everyone is working towards it. I don't know if that's a reasonable explanation. That's my own.
I think everyone has their own path to get clear in that area. But for me, it was a very crystal clear process in a faith system, in a belief system that was oriented in faith and Christianity for me. It made things clear for me. It gave me direction. It gave me hope.
Purpose.
It gave me purpose. And in doing so, I built a level of not just confidence, but passion for helping other people be healthy.
That's real. Healthy of mind as much as anything else, and what you put in your body is, you know what I mean? What you put in is what you get out, by the way. And we're all in, and we're all programmed by the TV to put all sorts of drugs in our body, not just illegal drugs.
Right, that good old sugar.
Sugar, wheat,
yes.
caffeine.
Yes.
My back hurts, take this. Yes. My head hurts, takes that. Yes. Everything, and my feet ache, I'm going to rub something on them. It can't just be working through it and understanding. I understand that. So that's a big part of everything. Yeah. Now, what you just explained, I think, is the cornerstone of what Leadership Tampa Bay was looking for when they recruit their individuals.
What was that?
Which is the passion, the purpose, the understanding, the direction. You know who yourself is, and you're a unique property. You understand that, and you want to give and build the community, because if you can't build the community, you can't have effect in the place that you are, and you can't make a benefit. And you can't be a leader in your community if you don't fundamentally understand that, because human beings see right through shallowness. Yes. It's palpable, and many of them just don't say anything and walk by. But when you're genuine and you have purpose and spirit and want to go towards it, that's something that's built. That's something I've found here in Tampa that is really prevalent. And I left New York not too long ago to be here in Tampa. Part of Embark Collective is a great place to put your business. Thank God I'm here. And Dr. Shanae, thank you very much. Is there anything you'd like to say to the audience here to wind up our discussion?
Sure. I think it's important to recognize that who you are is absolutely essential to what you do and how you do it. It just doesn't necessarily determine the formula for what you will do. And what that means for me as a Christian individual is Christianity is what I believe, but it is not what I do. I don't push Christianity on people.
You don't have to.
I serve people of all backgrounds. I serve people of all ethnicities, all identities. It's just what fuels me. And so we believe in creating safe spaces for everyone.
Well, it's acceptance. Everyone's, that's the whole thing. You're all human beings. We're here. You take care of the people, especially in your community. If you can do that, then everything comes around. I respect that and understand that at the core. I've seen it fail. I've seen it succeed. And what's happening in Tampa is a proper trajectory that way. Yes. So thank you very much for being here. And thank you all for watching today, listening, and hearing us here on Presentation Hell.